Yesterday, we saw this little tiny slight risk with a 2% tornado, really mainly for hail and wind. This was over the South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota region. However, this really didn't produce much. Here was our storm reports for yesterday, and nothing really happened for the most part. There's just a little brief tornado there, and nothing, nothing really in that risk area at all. However, today we are seeing this slight risk: tornado, wind, and hail, all included, especially this 15% hatched hail area. So I'm gonna be looking into what might be causing that today. First of all, we gotta understand what happened yesterday. Basically, there was this big old trough which has been, kind of working its way in the United States for a while, and basically there's this decent jet kind of going into it. Let's see if we can go back further here. There's that kind of strong flow associated with this trough and kind of moving its way through here, right in that little risk area right there. There's enough forcing aloft. This is kind of a cold core. Oh, that's 850. Excuse me. Sorry about that. 500 millibars. That's 850 flow. So that is, probably what was also causing some of that event. But 500 millibars, again, you have this trough here, fairly negatively tilted and fairly cold core as well. For today, this is going to be moving forward. Let me get to a better time period for this wrap run, because I was a little bit far behind. This will continue to move forward, and for our risk area of Minnesota, you're going to have a lot of strong flow, possibly 50s, pretty widespread 40s for sure, and then 50 knots plus as you get closer to the trough itself. And there's this little jet streak and possibly shortwave somewhere in here. You can see, I would consider this kind of a shortwave right here, and that'll be kind of giving us a lot of forcing right in that southern Minnesota region. Even and 50 millibars, there isn't as strong a flow, but there is, at least 25 knots, maybe 30s occasionally. And it does ramp up as you get into the more evening hours as well. Then the surface, we have this big old low pressure system up here, surface low. It's been including for a while here, but it has this very long and draped cold front. It's easier to see if we get closer to the sector. Let's choose here. Yeah, you can see the contour lines kind of dipping in, not the best look either, but the 2 point really shows that cold front right there. So you can see, again, very occluded. Here's your surface low. You can see the lifted index going all the way around that thing. Then a very long occlusion, and then eventually it transitions into a cold front. So a warm front somewhere up here, cold front drape right here. And there is that kind of, definitely that moisture difference right there because of the cold front. Stick of the floater, let's do that. Regarding Cape, that certainly is going to be Cape today. Not too extreme, not extreme Cape, but modest 2,000 plus Cape here. 3 Cape won't be too strong. Kind of over the region. Again, surface map is important here. The winds will be slightly out of the west, most likely, just because of how occluded and way this flow is very not associated with the actual trough. Like, it's very well disconnected from it, if that makes sense. So you can see this is starting to veer to the west, which isn't as good for tornadic supercells or events, but for the most part, we do have this, this surface flow, and some of it is fairly strong, especially bringing all that moisture right into this region of interest right here. And as we saw, Cape was, in the 2000s, sometimes maybe even 3000 as the wrap shows, but it's always up for could change. I like to look at our hodograph map as well, which is something the wrap does when you're in a floater sector. You can see our little curvatures in our little photographs, and it's not very strong, but you can see there's that little bit of curvature in that lower levels. I'll take a sounding just right here in this bullseye right in the middle. That's probably right where the main tornado threat is, right there in Minnesota. Again, you can see that somewhat supercellular structure of this photograph, but a very weird weird flow at the surface. So we are already out of the southwest here, but the analogs kind of are blowing up a little bit, which is something to note. I think hail is probably, yeah, it looks like hail is the main thing they're talking about here, though. So you have that fairly dampened low-level shear, but enough bulk shear for the most part to maybe get a supercell or two. And then we'll look at some of the shorter range models now as well. First of all, though, I would like to look at the satellite. Let's zoom in here to, we'll use, we'll just use this one. Big old sector right here. You can see our risk area here. We have some ongoing storms at the moment. This is probably from last night's convection. Not anything severe too much, but this can help clear out the skies, maybe that fog that could form in the beginning. And you can see already in our risk area here in Minnesota, this is already clearing up and getting all that that ample heating from the sun. So that'll already be helping that Cape values in the future. And these storms are moving on to the east and could help to clear out for severe weather today. Now let's look at the HRRR just because that's probably one of the best ones I want to look at. Convection is likely to form somewhere around 21Z. This looks very multicellular in nature. Some of the past runs were a little bit more extreme. You can see here, hail definitely looks like it's the main factor, but as we know, storm mergers are often very helpful for severe weather. So if a few of these are able to merge together, form a stronger updraft, could get a rotating supercell that might drop tornado or two occasionally. That's definitely why they have that 5% tornado. Wind for the most part, I don't see Boeing line segments coming out too much here. And move forward with time a little bit as well. But for the most part, just some Boeing line segments possible. I mean, maybe run right here and stuff, but this is a very slow moving cold front, so not a very strong forcing at the surface here. And obviously this all gets very messed up as you go forward. And the map model does show that cold front. You can see kind of dipping around here, so somewhere draped right here. That'll be our main forcing for today. Actually, real quickly, I'm looking at the HREF just for more models. I don't like just looking at the HRRR. Here's our 12Z HRRR. Let me move this further north, actually. Northern plane. We'll do that. Northern plains. Here we go. So this is the 0Z. I don't know if the 12Z is out yet. 12Z is not out yet, unfortunately. You can see what our 0Z HRRR was showing was a little band of supercells, which doesn't look as likely in our more recent run. NSSL, somewhat similar, but much more scattered. Again, the cold front is very slow moving, so it's possible you get some formation along it. ARW, and similar thing, convection forming somewhere around 22Z, so 5 p.m. Central Time. Slow moving cold front, not super strong forcing. Yeah, they're all kind of showing that for the most part. Let's see the NAM. The NAM has, again, similar thing, a bunch of convection right along that cold front, especially in Iowa, actually, which is notable. But yeah, just strong convection that could pose a hail threat because of the Cape. Again, we saw our little sounding here, lots of Cape in that mid-level, so that's kind of our hail growth zone. And just the fact that, there's a lot of forcing, but what's important is that there's a slow-moving frontal boundary, so that's not going to be forcing up everything to create wind damage, and that's part of the reason why, or not wind damage, but more squall lines. So that's part of the reason why tornadic stuff is somewhat in the picture here today. Again, it is a 5% tornado risk, which might be more extreme, but it is, still 5% and something to be looked at there. So see how this updates later on today. But for the most part, that's our little recap of this. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.